You got people falling through the ceiling, throwing copiers out windows, just pure chaos. And it's definitely one of the episodes that makes The Office The Office.
So what was the name of that one?
That was Stress Relief.
Stress Relief.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Ben, what was your number 3?
Stress Relief.
No way.
Yeah.
I told you we're getting to the heavy hitters.
It's time for the Brew and Shavers Sports Podcast.
Welcome back, sports fans. We have a show for you. Regardless if you like baseball, if you like softball, if you like professional basketball, if you like The Office, on this episode, there is a little bit of something for everybody, Darren.
I like it. That's, it's that time of the year where you got a bunch of things going on and you don't have football going on. So you can find a lot to talk about. So here we go.
There's always a lot to talk about. And
right.
We have a full show this week. We want to start off with the news of the NBA playoffs. We are in the finals now. The Dallas Mavericks versus the Boston Celtics. It starts Thursday this week in Boston. And what a series this looks to be on
Absolutely.
paper, Darren. Doncic is playing out of his mind. Kyrie Irving is playing at elite level. On the other side, you got Tatum and Jaylen Brown. This should be a very good series.
Yeah, absolutely. Truthfully, we've talked about the NBA Finals all 3 years that we've been doing this. I really honestly feel like this is probably going to be one of the best ones we've seen in that 3-year time, and we've talked about. I think there's going to be some really exciting basketball because both of these teams, like you said, are really playing at an elite level with some superstars on their teams. But part of what I enjoy is it's not just about the superstars. You really see some real team play with both these teams, and I enjoy that. So it's going to be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, on one hand, you have the Celtics who they've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get that ring, and sometimes that brings a lot of pressure. So how are they going to react in this situation? Is all the pressure going to be on the Celtics? But then on the other hand, you have the Mavericks, and let's be honest here, Darren. Making it to the finals is an incredible feat, and it's hard to repeat that.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how both teams respond to the pressure. And I don't know. I'm hoping we have a 7-game series. Those are the best, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
We'll see.
7 games with most of the games being tightly contested, no blowouts. That's a fun series to watch.
Yeah, no blowouts.
Yeah.
Speaking of some exciting news, we had a historic moment on the women's college softball tournament. Oklahoma, which has dominated women's college softball, they are the king of the hill.
Yep.
They were beat by Florida, ending their 20-game win streak in the NCAA tournament. And I believe this is Monday when we're recording this. Is it Tuesday that those two teams will meet up again in an elimination game? But talk about some high drama in women's softball.
Welcome to the SEC.
It's already starting.
No, it's the NCAA tournament, but welcome to the SEC.
It cannot get enough of it.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to also mention Birmingham Southern, the Division III school that closed on May 31st. Their baseball team made it to the D3 College World Series. Yep. Unfortunately, their postseason run ended Sunday night, day 3 of the College World Series for D3. A great story. A lot of people have been following Birmingham Southern. The school closed. A GoFundMe was established. I think it raised in excess of $100,000 to cover all the expenses,
which is awesome.
And you knew it has to end at some point. You were hoping it would end with a championship. Yeah, it didn't really have the storybook ending. But Darren, there was something that really resonated with me that I read. The team, instead of taking a plane home, they opted for a 12-hour bus ride home because they wanted more time with each other. Isn't Isn't that not a great story?
That's awesome. That is so awesome. And the video is out there on social media of the team after the game, after they lost, and there were alumni there. We do everything we can to stay out of YouTube jail, but we're going to, so we can't necessarily show it, but we're going to, like we did a couple of weeks ago, we're going to link that in the news and notes section of the show notes. When you see that news and notes with a time signature beside it, if you look underneath that, there'll be a link to a YouTube video, and you can click on that, because that is an awesome. It's like a minute 15, something like that, and it is an awesome video.
Yeah. What a great season for
Yep.
Birmingham Southern.
Yep.
I know this is going to be a major change for players and alumni when your school no longer exists. That's traumatic. That's painful. And so,
Very much so. And hopefully all of these guys find places to play, that they are playing somewhere next. You would assume that's going to be the case because obviously they played well. And they were doing things right to get to where they got. But hopefully that is the case. All these guys find somewhere to play next year.
Yeah. We wish them the very best.
Yep.
Speaking of greatness, we want to stop for a moment and remember Larry Allen, the great offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, who passed away today at age 52. Played at Sonoma State, not exactly a football powerhouse.
No.
Taken in the second round of the 1994 NFL Draft. 11-time Pro Bowler, first team All-Pro 6 times, Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2013. He played for the Cowboys from 1994 to 2005, winning the Super Bowl with them in 1995. One of the all-time great offensive linemen, an incredible athlete, and our hearts go out to his family at his untimely passing.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very sad news to hear, but what an incredible career. What an incredible career.
Now moving on to the news of the day, and that is the Super Regionals are at hand as regional winners are advancing to the next level in the postseason college baseball tournament. And we have, as of right now, 5 SEC teams that have punched their ticket: Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas A&M, and Florida. There's still some games to be played that aren't finished right now as we're recording. So we're kind of in limbo on is there going to be another team or not. But as of right now, there are 5 SEC teams. This is great, Darren. Even though there was some disappointment with some of the SEC teams. I know you were very disappointed in Vanderbilt. I think we were both shocked at what happened with Arkansas.
Yeah, definitely.
But what do you think? SEC showing up?
I think very much so. I don't think you can dispute that the SEC has shown up and shown up big. Texas A&M, Tennessee, the two that really jump out at me immediately have done exactly what you expected them to do. Going into the end of the season, I think you can say Kentucky showed up the way you expected them to. I don't think that's what any of us would be talking about in the first half of the season. But Kentucky definitely, as they have shown, has shown up and done exactly what you expected them to do. Yeah, Florida, a little bit of a surprise because they seem to be a little bit on the path that Vanderbilt was on. You talk about teams like Kentucky and Georgia that were peaking at the right time. It seemed, not Tennessee, sorry, Vanderbilt and Florida seem to be regressing at the wrong time instead of peaking at the right time. So I really expected Florida's regional to kind of go, or their regional appearance kind of go the way of Vanderbilt. So I was a little surprised. I mean, good for them. I'm glad to have another SEC school advance, but that one surprised me a little bit. But I tell you, that Texas A&M regional, it's not just it's something Bryan College Station that caught me off guard. It's always just been College Station, but now it's Bryan College Station. That was a great regional, and Texas A&M showed exactly who they are in that regional. Grambling played like a 4 seed, but good for them. They were there. But outside of that, man, Texas A&M, UL, man, Louisiana, they showed up. You talking about showing out for your program and doing things to elevate your program in the future. I don't think you can dispute at all that that's exactly what Louisiana did in their regional appearance. They showed up and made A&M earn it, but A&M did, and so I think there's something to be said for the way specifically A&M, Kentucky, and Tennessee look going into their super regional. Let's see, was it Tennessee is going to have Evansville, which came into their regional as a 4 seed and then surprised everyone. Kentucky has Oregon State, which the one upside of that is that's at home. That'll be in Kentucky because Kentucky's the 2 seed there versus the 15, or at least that's what they were going into regionals. I know that'll shake up a little bit, but going to Corvallis, that's nasty in baseball. So you don't wish that on anybody. So good for Kentucky. And then Texas A&M, they'll have Oregon, which again was a 3 seed going into their region. I believe that's right. Is that right? Oregon was a 3 seed going into their region, that region appearance. So that seems to be very, very favorable for A&M. So those are 3 SEC schools that look like they have a nice path to Omaha. So, and you didn't see anything in their regional games that made you think there's something to be concerned about. Pitching looked on point. Hitting looks on point. I don't want to say too much about the LSU game because we don't want to jinx it. But, you're talking about peaking at the right time. I mean, if you look at the top 25 on April 1st, so this is what, 90 days ago. Is that right? No, 60 days ago. Sorry. 60 days ago, the top 25, LSU was nowhere to be seen. There was not a Kentucky. There was not a Georgia. There was not an LSU. There was not a Oklahoma State. So many of these teams that have done well now that we're winning to regionals as the 16 national seeds and have won their regional and now in their super regional weren't even in the top 25, including an LSU, and they weren't a 16 seed. They weren't one of the 16 national seeds, but LSU, their bats are alive. Their pitching, if I'm an LSU fan, would still scare me a little bit. Their bullpen specifically would still definitely scare me a little bit. But, man, when you are just crushing the ball from the plate, that can overcome some things in the bullpen. And it seems to be what's the guy's name?
Monster.
There you go. Man, that dude is and the guy it's either the guy that bats right before him or right after him has also kind of came out of nowhere.
You talking about Pearson?
Yeah. Is that the taller guy got kind of a shaved head? Is that?
I know Pearson's really come alive in the playoffs.
Okay, then that's what I might have the wrong, but that's what and he bats right there, right around Milam. Is that correct? Yeah. Those two guys have you talking about showing up and saying, took me a minute, but I'm here. Let's go. I mean, those two guys have definitely done that. Been pretty impressive to watch.
And you got to give the coaches credit. I mean, Jay Johnson, I know for LSU, regardless of the outcome tonight, has managed a terrific postseason where the Tigers were in SEC play at one point. Was pretty dismal. And even, you got to give these guys credit. Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, A&M. I forget who the manager is for Louisiana, but he said that A&M team, I think the words he used were they were the best team they've faced all year.
Absolutely.
And you've been high on A&M all year, Darren, talking about how good a team they are, and they seem to be clicking right now.
Yeah. And the thing that scares me when you look, if I'm somebody that's going to face A&M, the thing that scares me is you can't look at their lineup and go, I'm afraid of that guy when he gets in the box, because there is a guy, but it's not the only guy. You got to be afraid of 1 through 4. You got to be afraid of the 6th batter, and then when they start pitching, there's not a whole lot of difference in. I know it won't be in these exact same terms when you look at tournament, but there's not a whole lot of difference in their Friday night and Saturday night starters, and in their Saturday night or Sunday start. There's not all 3 of those guys, and then they got some freshmen that come out of the bullpen that still at times show they're freshmen, but when they don't show that they're freshmen, when their stuff is working, you couldn't convince me that they're freshmen, and it all just seems to be clicking right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about the SEC is there were people that were writing Georgia off after LSU thumped them
Mhm.
pretty good in the SEC tournament. But that's just the way the SEC goes.
Exactly.
That's no big deal. We do that to each other all year long.
Yep.
So this Georgia team's good, and
Yep.
like I agree with you, Darren. I think we've got some teams with a very good path to Omaha.
And I tell you what, if I'm Clemson, I'm afraid of this Florida team because they have not had a very good year, but they've got the components. And if it all clicks, they can hurt you. And when I say they haven't had a very good year for Florida standards, they haven't had a very good year. And if it all starts to click the way it seems, if I'm Clemson, I'm afraid of that team. And you're silly if you're not.
There were those who were critical of Florida even being in the postseason.
Yep.
But when a team like Florida sneaks in like that, they prove to be dangerous.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm on pins and needles while we're recording this. Like I'm waiting for updates to come in. I'm not getting anything. It's storming outside, so I don't know if that's a good sign or that's an ominous sign. I don't know how to read the weather patterns.
Well, hopefully we'll see an LSU win because that'll be the 6th team. Is that right? The 6th SEC team. So 6 of the 16 left will be SEC teams, and let's see, 4 of those 6 will have home regionals, super regionals. Is that right?
I believe so.
Right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, man, that sets up for some fun in Omaha. At least it sounds like it anyway.
Yeah, it does. But I don't know if they can have as much fun as we have on here every week.
That's exactly right. Couldn't agree more.
We appreciate y'all for watching the show.
Yep.
And be sure to hit that like, subscribe button,
Absolutely.
get notified when new episodes come out. We'll keep you posted every week with our unique spin on what's happening in the world of sports, particularly in the SEC. And maybe even next week we'll have some good news from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, we don't have any games in any sport. It's good news.
Well, depending on how tonight goes, I might be right with you, Darren.
That's true.
Well, as much fun as we're having, let's go ahead and pause for Sports History Minute.
The 1990 Georgia Bulldogs baseball team etched their place in history as the first Southeastern Conference team to capture a College World Series championship in baseball. Under the guidance of head coach Steve Weber, the Bulldogs showcased their prowess throughout the season, culminating in a thrilling title. With a 52-19 record and an 18-9 SEC Conference performance, the Bulldogs dominated their opponents. Led by standout pitcher Dave Fleming, they navigated their way to the championship game against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. In a tense battle, Georgia emerged victorious with a 2-1 win, securing their place in baseball lore. This historic achievement not only brought glory to the Bulldogs, but also solidified their legacy as trailblazers in SEC baseball. The team's resilience, talent, and unwavering spirit remain an inspiration to future generations of Georgia baseball players.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, you heard this was coming. We were talking about it, a special episode in which we rank the all-time greatest Office episodes. It's a sitcom that everyone I've ever met seems to love it, and it's one we can't get enough of. It continues to be super popular in syndication. 9 seasons, 201 episodes from 2005 to 2013. And Darren, tonight we've got 2 Office experts.
Absolutely.
Who we just happen to be related to.
That's right.
But, you know, when I'm out watching other shows or whatever, and I'll ask Drew, what are you watching? I'm watching The Office.
Yeah, exactly.
So, But anyway, it is a great show, and we want to pay a little homage to it tonight with Drew and Ben. You may recognize Ben. You may recognize his voice.
His voice, that's right.
He was the voice of This Week in Sports History, and he's also the voice of Sports Minute, the new iteration of that special segment we do every week. So we got him on camera.
That's right.
So do I need to say, Darren, any ladies out there looking, both these guys are single and,
I mean, with the vast audience that we have, I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah, that kind of corresponds to how many distant family members we have.
Exactly.
So if you like sports and you like The Office, hey, these are the guys. These are the
Found your
guys.
guy.
The
That's
search
exactly
is
right.
over, to quote
Yeah.
Survivor. Remember that song from the 80s?
Yeah.
Well, let's get right into it. Let's do a countdown from the 5th best episode to the 1st episode, and we're going to jump right into it. And Drew, do you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Yeah, I can go ahead and kick it off. So The Office, it has been kind of my show for a long time. I think I lost count after the 20th time watching it all the way through. Usually as soon as I hit the last episode, I restart with the first one. But my 5th favorite episode of all time, I'm going to start off with The Convict. Now, this one kind of goes under some people's radar. When I went back to make my list, when I first saw the title of this one, it didn't stick out to me. And then I remembered this is the episode where we are introduced to Prison Mike.
Exactly.
And this is when Prison Mike tells us all the horrible things about prison with the Dementors and everything. So that very quickly, immediately went on my list at number 5. You can't go wrong with Prison Mike.
The first thing I think of when that episode is brought up, obviously Prison Mike is it, but that it just cracks me up every time I see a clip of that episode when he says, and the Dementors, they were so scary.
Another
Fly in.
underrated part of that episode is when Kevin is actually asking, I forget his name. I should know it. I've seen it so many times. But he's asking him what he did to go to jail. And he said, I had him repeat it several times because it sounds like what I do every single day.
That is great.
So number 5, that
Number
episode was
5,
called
The
what?
Convict.
The Convict.
Convict.
All right, Ben, what was your number 5?
I have The Garage Sale as my number 5 for the
Mm.
sole reason of Jim making Dwight trade his. I forget what Dwight started with, but Jim. I know there was a telescope involved.
Yeah, definitely.
And Jim had a packet of beans solely because Dwight said he couldn't be scammed. It's my favorite.
That's a good one.
That's a great episode.
That is a great one. How did you guys even come up with 5? Both of these already are. I'm thinking about them and just laughing thinking about them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, Ben, you want to go ahead with your number 4?
Yes. So the my number 4 is Safety Training. If not for the sole reason of we get the line depression. Is that not just a fancy word for feeling sad? That's my favorite.
And now it's Michael that says that, right?
Yes, on
Yeah.
the top of the roof,
Yeah.
pretending to.
Yeah. Or no, just Dwight say it to Michael. Or is
One
it
of
Mike?
them
It's
through a megaphone on
Yeah.
the top of the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to kill himself pretending to kill himself.
Wow.
That's a great
wow.
episode.
Okay, so what was the name of that episode?
Safety Training.
Safety Training. Okay, good stuff. What about your number 4, Drew?
So my number 4, this one's probably more of a classic one that sticks out, but my number 4 is Threat Level Midnight. This episode's special to me because we get to finally see inside the mind of Michael Scott. We get to see his imagination in action. We get to see a full-blown action movie. Me personally, I think if it was a real movie, it might actually do pretty good. But unfortunately it's not, so we have to live with the version we get. But love that episode. Love the story of the movie. Dumbest thing in the world, but it's hilarious.
Now, is that I might be mixing up episodes, but it doesn't Jim play a character in that?
Golden
And
Face.
and he's sitting there, and Dwight has a line, and he just kept saying, "Huh?" Or what?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. We searched all over Golden Face.
Yeah.
Is that the one where it wasn't in Michael's script, but Dwight jumps in front of
Yes.
a bullet to save? Yeah.
That was not scripted. So he just shoots him again.
Doesn't miss a beat. So that was number 4, and that was Threat Level Midnight.
Threat Level
Okay.
Midnight.
All right. So Drew, what was your number 3?
So my third one, now we're getting into kind of the heavyweights, the hard hitters. Number 3, I have Stress Relief. Everybody knows this episode because anyone who's ever learned CPR, this is kind of, they usually show you this video. But this is the episode where Stanley has his heart attack. Dwight gives us the line, today smoking is going to save lives. Lights the office on fire. Basically practices their emergency preparedness. They find out they're not prepared at all. You got people falling through the ceiling, throwing copiers out windows, just pure chaos. And it's definitely one of the episodes that makes The Office The Office.
And I very much enjoy Michael. Very chaotic, just a panic like you just about can't even imagine as he tells everybody to calm down. That's
Yeah. Or the everyone for himself.
yeah, exactly.
So that, what was the name of that one?
That was Stress Relief.
Stress Relief.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Ben, what was your number 3?
Stress relief.
No way.
Yeah.
I told you we're getting to the heavy hitters.
Yeah, great minds.
And that ranks up there to me because we get, I think it was still Sprinkles at that point. It might have been a different cat. Get thrown into the ceiling just to come straight back down. The best part.
I mean, think about it. A show that made you want to work at an office company.
Yep.
Paper company.
That you were talking earlier about seeing into the mind of Michael Scott. Think about the minds of the writers that came up with this stuff that we're talking about.
No doubt.
Those are some scary minds.
Ben, what was your number 2?
So my number 2 was I gotta look down. So Threat Level Midnight.
Nah.
Nice.
And they ranked just slightly higher for me because, like, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was all the same thing. There's an earlier in the series where they there's some joke about Michael writing a script and there's a robot servant, a robot butler, and it was based after Dwight, and he did find and replace, but he spelt Dwight wrong. So there's like a dite, and that's how they knew it.
You
And so,
stupid
like,
bitch.
they hinted at it the whole time. Then they finally gave it to you. So that's why I rank it up there.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Yeah. What do you guys like? That was to me, such a creative episode. What did you guys like about the storyline? I know it was silly, but what was it that really grabbed your attention? Darren, jump in here too.
Go ahead.
Oh, I go straight back to, like, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've seen it, but like, they sort of called back to like multiple episodes. Like, there's the ice skating rink that they go to, the episode where they think Kevin might have cancer, and that's the same ice skating rink. There's all sorts of little things. They really make it feel. They sell the fact that Michael's been filming it for years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Little details.
To me, that was the thing that stood out to me about that episode was how much is hidden in that episode. Because you have a standalone by itself of you've got Michael Scott's brain giving you a movie script, and then within that you have all of these other things that go on. To me, that's what I always loved about that episode.
It was so silly. It was good.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You brought up the skating rink and where they're like what 3 feet away from each other and they're shooting. Yes. It's just pure silliness. It's pure fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. So, how about your number 2, Drew?
So my number 2 and number 1 really both could be number 1, but my number 2 is Diversity Day. Diversity Day is a little tricky. It's actually one of the few ones they don't show on TV anymore. But Diversity Day is what it sounds like. Michael is going to learn to appreciate other ethnicities and races, and so his way of doing that is by putting cards on people's heads that have a different race on it. And I'm not going to say some of the quotes because some of them were pretty stereotypical, but there were some very, very funny quotes from that episode.
That episode makes you love even more, but also be even more afraid of Michael Scott all in one episode.
Yep. I'm head of diversity tomorrow because today's almost over.
Yeah.
And it was either Diversity Day or one of the early ones with Michael learning to be politically correct, where where the whole time he spent fretting that corporate was sending a lawyer in.
Yeah.
And they told him that the lawyer was for him.
That's like his own lawyer.
That's
I think we're still
fantastic.
under an hour.
But you know, the one thing about The Office, they would tackle hot button issues with humor and really got you to thinking about the way that we view the world and the way we view other people. And you were willing to dig into that because they made you laugh.
Exactly. And, you know, Drew, even with what you were saying about how the stuff that some of the things that, you know, this is one that they don't necessarily play on TV, and some of the things you're not really going to repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Even in those things, it was something that got your attention. It made you laugh, even if it made you go,
Hey,
you know.
one of Michael Scott's quotes.
He lifts weights.
Yeah, exactly.
One of Michael Scott's quotes is "There's no such thing as an inappropriate joke because it's a joke." So
Yeah. And it brings awareness. You know, it makes you sit back and think, hey, wait a minute, there's something too. There, you know, it makes you think about, even if it's the opposite of what was just said, even if it was said in the form of a joke, it still puts some thought. It makes you think. It gets those gears turning a little bit. And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that was your number 2.
mm-hmm.
So Ben, are we at you with your number 2?
I think I did my number 2.
Yeah.
That
All
was,
right. So it's number 1.
yes.
Don't we? Where's that song, The Final Countdown by Europe?
Here you go. I'll give it.
You're supposed to have this.
Do-do-do-do. How's that? Is that?
No,
Nah.
okay. All right. So number 1, Ben, hit us with your number 1 all-time greatest Office episode is
Dinner Party.
And what's one of your favorite parts of that one?
Oh, it's the TV.
That's a big screen TV he pulls off of that wall.
A lot of people in the room goes right to the wall.
That is such a good episode.
Oh, it's a great episode. It sure is.
You know, the more we talk about these episodes, the more that we remember. You know, you start remembering, oh yeah, remember this part or that part, and
Yep.
wow. So, well, I mean, the anticipation's killing me. So Ben's number 1 was Dinner Party,
Mm-hmm.
and your number 1, Drew.
So my number 1 is also Dinner Party. I think we just proved that Dinner Party is the best episode of The Office.
Yep.
I like the part where Michael's screen door is so clean he runs into it and breaks it. They don't show you that part, but they tell you about it.
Yeah. Yep.
I like how him and Jan go back and forth the whole time.
Yep.
You know, good luck paying me back on your $0 a year salary plus benefits. That line's in there. And then just the overall beginning, how Michael lies to the office workers to get some of them to come to his dinner party, because what he does is he says they have to work late. They have this big project. And then after people complain about it, he decides to be the hero, call corporate, tell them we're not doing this project, you know, even though there was never a project to begin with. And so then he starts inviting people to dinner, and they have no way to say no because they have no excuse. So
Yeah, there were some cringe-worthy moments in that episode.
mhm.
It's
Yeah,
Jan.
I can
Jan,
think
right?
of,
Yes.
yeah, Jan and Michael, definitely cringe moments.
Yeah.
Jan's candles.
Yeah.
I can't. I have a workspace and an office. I can't work in the same place I come up with my ideas. You see Michael's bed in that one, I think.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. I think you're right.
But yeah,
That's
good one.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great episode.
Yep.
And it's one of those we can relate because we couldn't say it, publicly and use any names, but we've all been in those cringeworthy similar situations.
Absolutely.
I just remembered the other line. I think Jan and Michael are playing their own game, trying to see who can make us the most uncomfortable.
Oh yeah. Was it Jim said that? Is that?
I think Jim said that. Yeah.
Speaking of cringeworthy moments in this episode, number one by both Ben and Drew, which must mean it's the
Absolutely.
greatest ever. There was a time a few years ago. Well, was it a few? I don't know how long ago it was. Maybe it was shorter than that. But Mindy, my wife, and I went out with Darren and his wife Misty. Went out to dinner. We thought it was very enjoyable, but it never happened again.
You spent way too much talking about your new candles. I'm just going to tell you now, that was the issue.
Well, I got tired of listening to you talk about your TV.
Hey, I can back that up.
He'll agree with that one.
No, I mean, The Office, it's hard to narrow it down to 5, and I'm sure you guys had lists that were much longer than 5. But we appreciate you attempting to do this, coming on the show, sharing with us your favorite episodes. And for those of you who are watching or listening, send us your top 5. What do you disagree with on this list? What do you agree with? What would you add? What is an episode that it is just beyond your comprehension that we left off the top 5 list? We want to hear from you. So send us a comment. And while you're sending that comment, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you'll always be notified of new episodes when they come out. So, Darren, what do you think? Are these in concrete, in stone, the 5 greatest Office episodes ever?
I can't refute them. I think they're 5 great episodes. I tell you, honestly, the only one that I would add in is I think you have to acknowledge, my opinion, how well they did ending the series. I think the 2 episodes that were the finale really, truly were a fantastic finale.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to some shows. And now their finales, rough. So I think this one was a really, really well done finale. It really kind of did everything you wanted it to do. So I would throw that in as an honorable mention, just because finales can go so far off the rails sometimes with TV shows. I would throw that in as an honorable mention, but I think it's 5 great episodes that these guys are. I guess they had a couple of layovers, or overlaps. So what would it be, 7 episodes or 8 episodes? I think they're great.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I really got from The Office that I thought they did a terrific job was showing Michael Scott the multifaceted person that he is.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were some episodes where you're like, this guy is a complete idiot.
Yeah.
I can't believe he just did that. And then there's those episodes where we see a side of him like, he's trying to be a good guy. I was thinking about, I think it's the episode Business School. Is that the one where Pam does the artwork?
Oh,
and you remember Michael shows up at the end?
And he's the only one that shows up, right?
Well, a couple others showed up briefly, but
Yeah.
he was just taken with the picture she drew of the building. And he's like, how much?
Yeah.
And he doesn't even realize that in that moment, he's giving her exactly what she needs.
Yeah.
And remember, she hugs him and says, thank you. And to me, it's just like, that's the complicated character of Michael Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said.
What do you guys think about that? You guys watch a lot more than I do.
Yeah, I think Michael usually has good intentions. I think he is a golden retriever as a person. But I think there's a disconnect, and I think I don't want to just say dumbness, but his dumbness really affects his wanting to do the right thing. I think. I think most of the time he tries to be a good guy, but he can't because he's dumb.
And I think there's a naivete Let's use that's my 50
Good
cent word for the
word.
night. Yeah, for the day. I think there's some of that too that it kind of translated as dumbness, but he's too naive to know
Yeah.
to really connect to brain can think, mouth shouldn't say.
He's a little kid. Yeah.
Ben, how would you describe Michael Scott to someone who's never seen the show?
I love Drew's that he's just a golden retriever as a person. I think that's the best.
That's great stuff. I
Yep.
appreciate both of you guys for coming on and being a part of the show tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, well, y'all be good out there.
Keep watching The Office.
Darren, that was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
You could tell both those guys, they just love The Office.
Yeah, and we talked about it before, but we didn't talk about it during. But Drew actually wrote a paper in a college class about The Office. Now, you talking about dedication to a show. That's dedication to a show. That's impressive. I give him a round of applause on that.
I think he said he's watched the series 20 plus times.
Yeah, I think he said he lost count at 20 or something, or stopped counting at 20. That's incredible.
That's 201 episodes.
It's hard to believe it's been almost 20 years
Yeah.
since that show debuted. That's unreal. If you really it doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
And it still connects with people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of interviews with Jim, the guy that played Jim, John Krasinski. Is that right?
Yeah.
I always mess that up, but people like him and some other people that are on the show and listen to a couple of different podcasts at times, and they talk about how the thing that always kind of gets their attention and makes them go, wow, is when they'll be in an airport or something, and it's people that are not old enough that they should really be into the show the way they are, walk up to them and start to talk to them about their favorite episode or their favorite quote from their character or something like that. And it still connects with people and it moves through generations. Really awesome.
And they appear to be very gracious about it, the actors that were in the show. I know I've heard some interviews with Rainn Wilson, who played Dwight, and very gracious. He recognizes that most people are not going to call him by his given name, but they're going to call him Dwight.
Dwight, exactly. I would wonder how many times he's actually had someone in public say, "Is that Rainn Wilson?" I would bet it's closer to 0 than like 100.
Yeah. Good stuff. We need to do another one like that pretty soon.
We really do. Maybe we could do like our favorite, maybe not top 5 or just something. All of us kind of chime in, do our favorite quotes, because we did talk about that a lot, like quotes that came from episodes. Great idea. Maybe we could do our favorite quotes at some point. That'd be fun.
Or we could even we put a poll out there, Darren, and let our viewers vote on the best quotes.
Oh, I think that would be fantastic. Maybe we can do that. We'll do that in the next couple of days. We'll throw out something on Twitter, and we'll get you and I'll put our favorite quotes in, and we'll get Ben and Drew to give us their favorite quotes, and we'll put all 4 of them on there and see if people.
Sounds perfect. As long as we don't get washed away with this storm.
Well, that's still a possibility.
We're going to miss this in August. That's what they say.
Yeah, that's what they keep telling us.
Well, thanks again for everybody for watching. Hit that like, subscribe button so you're notified when anything comes out from the show. We appreciate you so much. Yep. Until next time, y'all take care.
Have a great week.
Thank you for making the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast your go-to sports show. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show if you haven't already. Your feedback is so important. Let us know what you think about this week's show. Send an email to brewandshavers@gmail.com or a text to our text line 318-390-3599. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for listening to the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast. See you next week.